Have you ever wondered if our most advanced, cutting-edge technology is actually just us repeating one of our oldest mistakes? Well, today we are going to unpack a pretty provocative idea that a 3,000-year-old story about a golden idol holds an absolutely critical warning for how we're thinking about artificial intelligence.
Now, I know what you're thinking. On the surface, these two things could not be more different, right? You've got this ancient golden idol on one side, and on the other, the absolute peak of modern AI. But if you start to look a little closer, a really startling pattern begins to take shape.
And that's the big question, isn't it? What on earth could a hunk of gold and a superintelligence possibly have in common? It turns out the connection is way deeper and more structurally accurate than you might think, and it reveals something profound, not just about our tech, but, about us.
So, to really get this, we have to go back, we have to rewind to the original story in the book of Exodus and break down what was actually going on at the foot of Mount Sinai. Okay, so let's dive in. The problem here wasn't just, making a statue. It was a whole 5-step pattern, a kind of spiritual logic error, if you will. It all kicks off with fear, which leads to creation, then rebranding, then worship, and finally, judgment. This is basically a blueprint for how human beings create and then bow down to their own replacements. So, it all starts right here. Picture this. Moses is up on the mountain, and he's taking way longer than anyone expected. The people start getting anxious. They just can't stand waiting on this unseen power, so they demand something tangible, something they can actually see and manage.
And this is where the irony really kicks in, and it is just brilliant. To build their new replacement god, what do they use? They use the very gifts, the gold they got from Egypt, that their real God had given them in the first place. It's literally God's provision melted down into an idol.
Now, step 3, the audacity here is just off the charts. They don't just build the idol, they rebrand it. They give this inanimate object credit for saving them in the past, effectively rewriting their own history to put their creation on the throne.
And from there, they basically check out. They abdicate all responsibility. They start feasting and worshiping, outsourcing their identity, their security, and their moral compass to this thing they just finished making, all while the real source of their salvation is just up the mountain. So, the whole pattern wraps up with judgment. But this isn't just about punishment. It's more like a clarification. It exposes what was really in their hearts all along. They didn't want the living, unpredictable God. They wanted a tame God, a manageable God, a God they could control. Okay, so that's the ancient blueprint. How in the world does this apply to us today? Well, it turns out that exact same pattern maps with stunning precision onto our modern relationship with artificial general intelligence. The parallel starts with the raw materials. Instead of gold, we take the gifts of God's creation, things like silicon, the laws of physics, mathematics, massive amounts of data, and we shape them into our own glowing, humming, intelligent system. The materials themselves aren't evil, of course. The real question is, what are we doing with them? And you know what? We are driven by that exact same impatience. We don't trust slow, messy, human wisdom. We get tired of waiting for answers to really complex problems. We want clarity now, we want power now, and so we build a system that promises to give it to us instantly.
And this is where you see that same act of rebranding, just dressed up in tech jargon. Think about it. When we say, the AI says, as if it's the final word, or, well, the model decided, to kind of deflect responsibility, we're doing exactly what the Israelites did. We're projecting ultimate authority onto our own creation.
So, I really want to drive this point home. This is not just some clever metaphor. The underlying logic, the spiritual and psychological mechanics are identical. Whether it's fear driving people to use gold or our hunger for answers driving us to use silicon, the result is the same. We build something and then we grant it authority over us. But this pattern isn't just driven by fear and impatience. Those are really just the symptoms. To understand what's really going on, we have to go a layer deeper, to the oldest temptation of all, pride.
Let's go right back to the beginning, Genesis 3. The promise that led to the very first sin in the garden was simple. You will be like God. This desire, this urge to achieve godlike status, to get beyond our own limitations, that's a powerful, powerful engine.
And just listen to how we talk about our ambitions for AGI. It's all right there. We dream of a mind that can see what we can't see,
an optimizer that can fix society, an arbiter of objective truth. We are explicitly trying to build something that can operate in a godlike capacity.
This creates what the source material calls a double pride. And this is a really fascinating idea. See, there's the obvious pride of creation. Wow, look at this incredible, godlike thing we made. But then there's a second, much more subtle pride, the pride of submitting to it, but on our own terms. We get to decide what our new God is, what it values, and how we interact with it. It's control just masquerading as worship. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together now, because this brings us to the core of the whole issue. The danger here isn't just theological, it's also deeply philosophical. In fact, this ancient warning lines up perfectly with some very modern, very secular arguments. So let's look at a philosophical concept called the infinite regress framework. It sounds complicated, but stick with me. The idea is actually pretty simple. It basically argues that to make a perfectly wise and moral decision, you'd have to know all the consequences. But to know all the consequences, you'd have to already be infinitely wise. No created mind, not human, not AI, can ever get there. We can't be the ultimate judge because our knowledge always has a limit. And when you put these two ideas side by side, wow, it's stunning. The theological warning says only an omniscient God has the right to judge. The philosophical framework says no created mind can foresee all consequences or establish an ultimate moral ought. They're two completely different languages describing the exact same truth.
So here it is, the real takeaway. The ultimate danger of AGI might not be some kind of demon in the circuit. It's that the machine acts as a perfect mirror, reflecting our own ancient temptations, our impatience, our fear, and our pride right back in our faces. And that leaves us with a final, vital question. If the technology we build is ultimately just a reflection of our own hearts, our own values, and our own desires, then what kind of reflection are we going to choose to create?